There's these chairs here, and we can pull them round a bit, you know, and there's those there. I wasn't sure how many you'd be. Somebody said to be 33 of them. That's about it. Do you want to sit round up here a bit, if it's easier for you? Just was it that they might be? He said critting, didn't you? It was a word. Yes, yes, yes. I do like to participate because really I enjoy doing what I ask other people to do. Are there any other things you want to say? Well, we have to choose what our drama will be about. Now, you all do drama, do you, of one sort or another? So I'm not talking to inexperienced people completely, am I? Right, and we've all got our own ideas, of course, about what it is. Somehow we've got to agree on a consensus of what will our play become about. I have a lot of suggestions. For the moment, I will simply be your scribe. What you say, I'll write, but you might notice I say something as well in words that might just modify it, and you must decide if you like that or not. Okay, what shall our drama be about?
I think I'd like it to be quite modern. I'm not really interested in Shakespearean things.
That seems to suggest you've had some experience with Shakespearean things. Because actually he's quite modern when you get inside him, but I can quite understand. So, are we all saying
Modern.
that we'd like it to be modern? Yeah. Now, how far back does modern go? I mean, is it just this year, or is it like
50 years.
1980.
the last 50 years? You say 50. So, whatever it is, we shall find ourselves living as persons of at least not earlier than 50 years ago. So that takes us to 1935. Right.
We could do the 90s.
Takes in an awful lot of events in the world, doesn't it?
We could do a thing on the wall then.
Well, we could.
I'm just saying it's
Hang on. Do you mean a thing regarding a war?
No, I don't mean like soldiers.
I'm not knocking what you said, but he did say something.
I don't mean soldiers. I'm just saying that
Don't mean be
as an
soldiers.
idea.
Around the war.
Yeah, how people reacted to the war and all that.
Yeah. Well, look, he's in a minority of one, but he's got a right to say it. You've all got a right to say as well. So I'll put that to show, you know, it's in right little letters. Because that's symbolic of how many thought. Mine, I have a knack of making things ever so interesting. And I can guarantee you that it could be interesting. I don't care what you choose in that sense. I mean, it's not for me to say. Now, you said one. Do you want to say any more?
No, I'm just saying
Oh.
that I don't mean it as to be like soldiers or anything. I'm not interested in that stuff. But
No.
like say, there could be a family and their sons just died in the army or something like that.
As will have happened somewhere today. Bound to. Yes. Yes. Or indeed, I mean, there was a shocking thing happened in Britain just recently. I don't know what news you get. But there was the most appalling faux pas. They decided to celebrate D-Day, you know, when all the troops landed on D-Day to invade Europe again. So they had all the politicians, they had all the big generals, they had all the Air Force guys, they had all this. And they forgot the widows. Can you imagine? All those war widows. All these people going to celebrate and parade around and have all their medals on. And the people whose soldiers couldn't do it were left out. Can you imagine what shame? There were questions in Parliament. There was a widow lady stood up and said, has it not occurred to this government that there are whole families who were brought up without fathers? So you see, you've got a lot of interesting things come around wars. It doesn't even to be at the time of the war. I mean, this was, you know, 50 years later, good heavens. Anyway, we got one suggestion, and it happens to be right down there. Now then, you'd like to do it? Oh, well, we'll just put a slight tick.
The 1920s Charleston and the Mafia.
The Mafia?
Yeah.
Did you say the Charleston as well?
Yeah.
Interesting. Charleston and the Mafia. You can notch it back a bit if you like. Was it the Charleston or the Mafia or the date that interested you?
1920s.
The 1920s.
Swinging time.
Well, let's just, add 1920. It's our play. And, we put 1985 here just to make it look nice. I'm sorry I've misjudged the space, but... Pardon? Oh, and the future, of course. I just do that, and it's in.
If we're going to do the future, I don't know if things like space fiction and
Oh, I know. There is a lot of it about. The future could be your old age. When my daughter was born, I remember she was 6 days old and I was sitting at home because I had to go out later. And I heard on the radio this amazing thing, and I've never forgotten it. Children born this year, this was a medical program, can be expected to have a lifespan of 130. And I looked at Marianne. 130. And it was surgeons talking about the possibility, you see, of renewing organs, not borrowing from each other, not like giving them a kidney from somebody else, but actually being able to rejuvenate organs. And I still look at her now, and she's 19. I wonder if she will. Because if she does, you will. Because you're younger. Have I missed saying anything? I didn't put Charleston or Mafia, did I? Am I spelling this right? Because I've never... I don't think that's right, do you? Charles, is it?
Yeah.
Charleston and the Mafia. I rather like that combination. Trying to Charleston in the 1920s dress with a gun at your garter. Any other suggestions? Don't be afraid to talk to one another. You don't have to look at me all the time. See what other people think. Otherwise, we get left on our own.
I'd like to do a horror.
Something of
Oh,
Hang on a minute. Things never mean just what they sound like. Do you mean you want to be terribly afraid?
Yeah, I'd like to make people tense.
Tense, yes.
Sniffing a
Just a minute. Horror is when you can't quite understand the whole thing, that you feel subjected to it and there's nothing you can do about it. That's when it's horror. That there's something going on here, and it might be you're imagining it, you don't know. You don't know if the thing that's just come in and you heard it walk past, and you know you're on your own and you daren't go to the door to see. Now, I call that horror. I don't mean men with green claws and purple flags. If you do, then tell me, because, I must put it down. Horror is one of the things we hope won't happen to us. Yes.
And what about a musical?
A musical? Are you? Well, who is into musicals? You mean using music or doing a musical? There's a lady over here protesting adamantly. But are you seriously into musicals?
It's too difficult. Look at me like you or you're stretching your legs up and down.
Ah, yes, it's difficult.
We have to listen. But like Georgie said,
Done something, listen.
but like Georgie said before,
You can do a musical without having to be clever at musicals. You don't make a musical. What you do is run the best musical company in the world. You could run a musical, fly first class, have cocktails before dinner. I mean, your drama doesn't have to be the musical. we could decide whether we dare take it to Israel or whether they'd understand it. I mean, there's all sorts you can do with a notion of a musical. You don't have to kick your legs in there. I mean, I won't be able to take part.
Like Georgie said with it for
But I can manage a
1920.
company. Pardon?
For 1920 and the Charleston thing.
You don't have to do the Charleston.
No,
But you can run a club
Mummy,
for the mafia.
Couldn't we do like the 1950s rock and roll?
Yes.
What about the gang?
Just a minute, they're coming thick and fast now. Do you say rock and roll gang?
Yeah.
Where am I rock and roll? It's coming up here. Now, let me just stop you a minute. I know you've still got a lot of suggestions.
Rock and roll.
What you're into at the moment is that very creative thing of just throwing everything into the pot. But as we start throwing everything into the pot, we also have to start saying, how are we going to sort this out? So you know as well as I know, we can't have everything. I mean, you agreed to that, aren't you? There's no way you can have everything. So somehow we've got to be able to say, well, I don't like everything about what we choose, but I like enough to go along for a bit. So that's where you're going to have to start accommodating, like I am. I'm the one with no rights. I have no right to say what it'll be. But I have a right that you may not understand, which is, I know that whatever you pick, I'll make it interesting. Now that's a promise. I don't expect you to necessarily be able to do that regularly. Right.
As we've mentioned on the board, rock and roll, what about the latest what about the latest era, or used to be the latest era, Greases as the gangs, and you get the Greases and then you get the well-dressed gangs who don't play around with knives.
Now, is this the word grease? G-R-E-A-S-E?
They call that.
And what would a group be called? Grease or something? Now, I don't know a lot about that, but I'm prepared to be taught about it. Are you saying a more modern gang than the Charleston or the Mafia? Actually, the Mafia is very modern. I mean, the Mafia is terribly active. At the same time, it seems impossible to eradicate. However, if the grease, whatever you call it, is another equivalent of it, you know, that might be developing, are you saying you'd like to be vaguely antisocial and tough?
Yeah.
Is that what you really would like to be?
A confliction of two eras, two gangs.
Two areas.
Yeah.
When you say areas, do you mean areas? My English here.
Two kind of gangs.
Two points of view. Is that what you're interested in?
Yeah.
Can I put that down as a definite then?
Yeah.
In that you want to be vaguely antisocial. You're prepared to carry on antisocial behaviour. Okay. Now, what we're now looking at is not ideas, it's elements we're prepared to take on in the drama. So we're prepared to behave in a way that really is not all that helpful to society, but might do us a lot of good. Right, we've now said, I just want to make sure you realise. Yes?
We could have like two gangs.
Well, now you're into something interesting that I think I should teach you about. If you don't mind me just saying. If you want to be two gangs, you're going to spend a lot of time not realising what your drama's about. If some of you want to be good and some of you want to be bad, you're going to end up with a story drama. Now, if you take my advice just at the beginning, you'll agree to all being together first before you split. Because that way we get the hang of how things are going to be. Now, I'm asking you to take that statement on trust. I can't explain it any more than that. We'll learn it as we do it. But if you start saying, I'll be this and he'll be that and they'll be doing that, you get a story. But that isn't how theatre is. Theatre isn't stories. Theatre is somebody walks into a situation and things start to happen around them. And we don't know what will come next. We know what we want to keep, which is being antisocial. We don't know whether we'll be able to do it or how. Because that makes the drama interesting. We don't know how the next thing will happen. We might decide on what. I mean, we might say, all right, in this particular episode, he's going to be shot. He's agreed to be shot. We agree that somebody's going to do it. We don't know who. We don't know how the row starts. And we certainly don't know what will happen. We're agreed we want to be there in a situation that's just a little bit outside the law. Is that what you say? Yeah. Because antisocial can take you outside the law, or it can take you inside the law, but behaving in a way people don't like. Which do you want? Outside the law. Yeah. So if that's the law, we are going to be operating sort of there. Yeah. Now the other thing is, how far outside the law do you want to experience in your drama? Are you just in the small time stuff of a little bit of fiddling? Or are you in the big time stuff of moving money around?
Big time.
Big time. Yeah. Then you have to carry the lifestyle, and it needn't be rich looking, it might be poverty stricken, but you might be moving money around. After all, that man that was killed by the mafia was found hanging under an old bridge in London. He was hanging in his city suit, and there must have been a lot of big money that hung him. But I'll bet you the people that took him looked like men in white overalls or green overalls driving a dusting truck, you know, a dusting truck. Right? So we're at the big time. And are we saying that some of our manipulations of money around the world, if it is money, it may be people, it may be armed. Let's think of all the antisocial things that are done in the world that we've heard about, that we could be dirty in, you know. It might be jewellery. You mean gold and, yes, okay. We've got gold, precious stones, the diamond market, precious stones, weapons, and that could be anything from sawed-off shotguns to knives to, I mean, one of the problems of Iran, have you heard about it? Does it bore you when I think of things like this? I've tried to widen the thing. One of the problems of Iran is you can't be a man if you don't have a rhinoceros horn knife. Oh. Do you have a rhinoceros in South Africa? I don't know. Yeah, well, imagine what the Iranians will do to get a rhinoceros-handled knife. Because for them, that's the only way to be a real man. So the rhinoceros is secretly killed to provide the horn that gives the knife. Well, you only get one knife out of every rhinoceros. So you could be in that trade. Drugs? Drugs. Now, while I'm saying these things, you've got the mind's eye up here. You can say, which am I prepared to find interesting to go into? We're not really going to go into it, obviously, but we're going to make that our living. And you've got to be honourable with yourself, as well as honourable with the drama. Immigrants, you mean smuggling people?
Yeah, illegal smuggling.
Well, can I put smuggling people? Because that makes it, you could be smuggling spies or immigrants, smuggling persons.
Dorothy?
Yes, just call out.
When we're talking about this, are you talking about material things or actions like murder or...
Oh, we may be in the business of getting rid of people. We could be professional killers.
What about hijacking?
In which case, I will put it down there, we deal in killing.
And hijacking?
Well, put killing and hijacking. So killing, hijacking,
Assassinating.
selling government secrets,
Loan sharking.
government secrets. One of the lovely things about drama, for somebody as old as me, is I can behave in ways that society never really lets me. You know, I sort of like reading books, but this gets me a bit nearer. You are at the moment agreeing to carry the responsibility of big-time crime at the moment. And bear in mind what you said. Right. So responsible, big time. Now, we don't need to know which crime at the moment, you know, of all that list. But we're going to never be able to start. We've to know the current crime. Now, I'll start a telephone conversation now. I'm not inventing the crime. What I want you to say, if you think you get a notion, I think that telephone conversation could be a crime to do with oil or, you know, whatever you think. Will you ring my phone for me? I'll just start again. Let's say I have 3 phones on my desk and I'm one of the gang. The red phone shall be for what? Emergency. Only from the gang. The green phone shall be for personal calls. Did you say personal?
Yes.
So anything to do with my private life is the green phone. And what should we have for business? Now, when you ring, we'll just one ring. Who'll ring? Right. You simply, as you ring, will one other person just say red, white, or green? And then I'll know what the ring is. You don't have to give me the message. I'll just start, and then the first person that speaks says, our crime that we are considering is today to do with, and you just pick one of the big time stuff, right? And from then on we agree that's it.
Yeah. Okay.
Right. So I'm in my office.
Just from good. Okay. Green. My ears red.
The first word I heard was green.
Yeah.
John here. I'm just inventing a name. John here. Sandra, is your mummy in? Well, why are you phoning me? I can't hear you, love. You have to hold the telephone nearer. Now tell me when to stop. You have to hold the telephone nearer. Now, what sort of crime could this innocent family guy be involved in that his daughter, his little girl, has telephoned? She doesn't know anything about the crime, of course, but what weary minds working that this nice man who can tell his little girl to hold the phone nice is currently going to be dealing with.
Maybe that was the signal to him to do something.
So that's the signal. Great. Shall we keep it at that?
Yes.
Sandra, love, will you fetch your mummy now? Pick up the red phone. Hang on. Jane, what's the number? Give me the number, the telephone. 443. She's going to ring it on the red phone.
44321.
Red phone. Jane, what's the number? Say nothing else. 4, 4, 3, 3, 2, 1. Thank you. Jane. Don't wait dinner.
What did you say?
I said don't wait dinner.
That's a code.
Well, I thought it was just, you know my wife, I ain't coming home tonight. Right, now she's got the red phone. What will bring all of us into the drama if she dials that note? How will it get you all into my office, or me to where you are, or down to the bar, or something has to happen on this red phone now. She's only my secretary at the moment. You want it to be good. Right, give her an idea.
She could be phoning an informant or something at the club and telling him, okay, there's a rendezvous at 4:30.
in the morning or something like that.
Well, I'll tell you
And
what,
meet
when
at the
she
docks.
does, hang on, yes, hang on. She's not going to say anything. All she's going to do is dial a red phone, and presumably you've all got red phones.
But I don't know. She dials the red phone and calls an assistant office. And the minute it rings, they know that that is
Right. Well, will you all be in your offices then?
Yes.
So when the red phone rings, you know. Is that what?
Yes.
I just want to get you into the drama quick, you know. Otherwise, you're going to sit there while I have a lovely time, you know, in my office with my big telephone.
If we are we all going to be like the baddies?
I asked you all temporarily if you would. The reason I asked you was, we really do need to get believing in something before we find out who else we need. As soon as we know who else we need, I mean, if we're going to be dealing in oil, I mean, I still don't know, just rest your arm a minute, love, I won't forget. If we're going to be dealing in oil, we may need innocent people there. Then we'll know what we need, and then we can handle it. But if we just start together, we can get a lot further quicker. Do you see what I mean? Yeah. I don't expect you to all believe me very bad, though I'm very good at instantly behaving like I am. You know, I believe in my little girl as well, you know. Do you? Because I've put it in the drama, I'll have to have it now. I've got a little girl called Sandra, you see. I've got Sandra there, and she obviously is so young, I have to talk to her like she's thick-headed. I mean, you know, isn't she? Do you get the feeling? She didn't even know to hold the phone in. She's dialed her daddy's number. She may not even know what. I've also got a wife called Jane. Now, they're in the drama. They're in my background. I don't know what's going to be in your background, but it's all going to be part of this unit. And we'll have weaknesses and strengths, and fears and horrors and all sorts of problems. So, are we agreed the phone's going to ring in your offices? Would you agree to that, just for now? Okay, now what are you wanting to tell me?
When the phone rings in the offices, something special, maybe you don't always talk to each other.
That's right.
Maybe it's supposed to be some sort of thing like a Scots museum.
Yes, that's what I meant. But she isn't going to say anything. She's my secretary, I've told her to phone. Now, you don't have to be my secretary forever, but I needed somebody quick. Right, what are you going to say?
Well, what we can do, it doesn't actually have to be drugs. We can, she can send a Scotch dial, and there'll be a message that the different people, when the police are going to send the money to the bank, whatever.
It needn't be any of that. Don't make it too complicated at the beginning. Honestly, all we need to do is get together in the same place to know what's up. Yes?
You could, the red phones in other people's office, they all be contacts and say, right, it's time to bring the merchandise up, and so the guy can go, if you're doing a play, so you can go and
It's okay.
they hold all my calls now.
Yes, what you've said is, the call means you get something out safe, you depart very normally from the office, and you meet. Now, how many of you fancy that? You're actually going to walk the streets quietly with nobody you hope noticing, and you're actually going to be carrying something that could incriminate you. Are you prepared to take that on?
Yes.
We do have to decide. We don't need to decide on the crime. We do have to decide, if you've agreed to it, that when that phone rings, which will be your red phone, wherever you are, and you mean, you could be, I don't know where you'd be, where you'd be able to have phones. You could be lurking outside someplace, I suppose. But it means fetch it now. So we must decide what it is. Now, let's not go through the whole rigmarole of everybody having a different idea. Let's agree that one of us in the group can say, I would like it to be this. And will we agree that that's it? As long as it can be seen and be parcelled up and would go in a pocket. Just for getting going. Later, we might be dealing in oil rings. You know, you can't put them in your pocket. Now, somebody you feel as a group, and I know you don't know it, you're dying to say something. Go on.
Could be a key to some special lock.
Well, now, you just said what I said we should let somebody else decide. Do you see what I mean? That's a suggestion. Now, is there anybody in this group? Don't volunteer yourself. that you consider hasn't really had a fair go, or they might like to do this, don't choose anybody you think would be embarrassed by it. But if you think that somebody hasn't had a fair go, they'd like to choose what it is we carry. We know one of the suggestions, maybe we all bring keys and when we get there, they all fix up. But that's up to the person. Now, is there anybody that you feel you could volunteer to have this responsibility just for this once, of saying, I can choose what we fetch to the meeting? Where is that person? Where is she? Is it a she? I didn't hear the name. Donna. Where's Donna? Donna, would you like to decide what we're carrying?
Yes.
Now, will you just sit at your office and hear Donna's words? Don't look at her. Turn around. I know we haven't got an office yet, but you make an office in your mind. Just be working, and this word that Donna says, or these words, they'll just drop in your ears, and as soon as she said it, visualise where you keep it. And I'll have to do the same. When you're ready, Donna.
Explosives.
I didn't hear it.
Explosives.
Explosives. I keep mine in my lunchbox. It's the one place my secretary never looks at. I can carry it backwards and forwards. Nobody ever looks in there except Jane. This is going to be real crap because obviously we haven't got the space. Now, the phone's going to ring, the numbers will be wrong, she might say them as she rings them, then you know. If you are busy, and suddenly the red telephone. And when the red phone rings, and rings, how many times do you want it to ring?
2, 3, 6, 7. It could bring the number of, say he wants to bring, you'll need a lot of explosives, so let it ring 5 times, or bring 5 explosives.
Well, then you'll just have to wait till it stops ringing, and whatever number she rings, that's what you bring. Actually, I couldn't bring 5, because what I carry is the jelly nut. So I don't carry 5 jelly nuts, I carry that amount to make 1 use. But now that's going to happen. You're going to have to get the materials. You're going to have to apologise to whoever's in the office. You're going to have to find your way out there to get into your car or whatever you think you need. And which floor is my office?
23. Yes, 23. 23.
Well,
23.
Look. There's the door of the big building. The lift. You tell the lift when to stop.
No.
Well, I have a small sub-office there.
Much higher.
No.
Turn up the window. No. Robin, don't be so.
That's my bathroom.
Stop.
No. Yes.
Yes.
With your architect's eyes for buildings, if this is a big imposing door, much taller than normal, so that the entrance hall is very lofty, how many floors?
23.
Your architect's eyes?
23.
23.
Yes, 23. 23 would be too squash. 30. 23. 23.
Well, forget your architect's eyes and think what's safe, but not on the
23 would be too high if the guy has to make a rendezvous in 5 minutes. It'll take him 5 minutes in the lift.
Yes, right, isn't it really?
About 15.
Looking at speed, 15 is a bit.
3.
10. 8. Well, no, it's a matter of security. 33 people within a space of 5 minutes are going to have to get past a janitor and all take the lift to the whatever floor it is. So what we need is a safe feeling.
Maybe the janitor's part of the group.
I'll tell you what, we know the building goes much higher. We'll just put it there for now. We won't say what number it is, but when you press the lift button, if you do, later we'll just say, what lift button did you find yourself pressing? And we'll see how many pressed one number, you know, and we'll call it that. Are we ready now?
Yeah.
From now on, we function truthfully as people who don't. That's what we've agreed to. We are prepared to act in emergency. We are prepared to carry the actual materials that may be handed down. Now, we've got this bit of space you can move around. You have to create the world now in your mind. I've created an office. I've only put it here because there is space here when you meet me. When you come in, my secretary will be here and there need be nothing said. Discipline, right? We are not in the small time. What's up, boss? You know, it's not that line, is it? It's a lot more. The phone's going to ring 5 times, you're working, get yourself on your job. Got to ring it 5 times. She'll only make the sound of the phone. That's all she can do. She's only functioning as a phone. It's the red phone. Don't let anybody suspect there's anything of it. If there's anybody in the room with you, make sure they know how to carry on and they think it's normal. Make any excuse you can. Okay, you better go down to the first floor and just send the janitor a feel with you. I'll just have a quiet word with them so there's nobody on the job when they all arrive.